Hello everyone, I'm Santiago, and today I'm gonna be testing Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order on the GTX 1060. To skip to any of the resolutions tested, check the timestamps down in the description. So on this card I'll show you two configurations for 1080p and 1440p, one trying to be close to 60 frames per second, and the other one trying to be over 30 as much as possible, getting better visuals pretty much. Then I'll also test 900p, since that one on epic settings is usually over 50 frames per second without much of an issue. And there's also a 4K test, which I really did just for the sake of it, to see how it runs at that resolution. And at the lowest settings it can be close to 30 frames per second, but dropping multiple times into the mid-20s due to the amount of effects and foliage on screen. In that case maybe a 1660 or 1660 Ti makes more sense if you want to target 30 frames at 4K with reduced settings, but it doesn't cut it on this GPU. With this being an Unreal Engine 4 game, I was pretty familiar with the options menu, and overall, as usual, the options that affected performance the most were shadows and visual effects and post-processing. Your best bet to improve performance is to lower those three together. Depending on what's on screen, one will affect the performance more than others. In general, shadows and post-processing made the biggest FPS difference, and also there are three options for each of them. You don't have low, medium, high, very high and ultra. You have medium, high and epic. While this makes it easier to just configure the game, I think there's a lot of tweaking potential left behind. I say this because the game still looks great on the lowest settings. There's less shadow distance, lower resolution shadows, no reflections, less complex effects, going from the lowest to the highest pretty much. So yeah, it seems that they wanted to maintain the aesthetic of the game even on the lowest settings. If you play with the settings a lot, make sure to restart the game. There are some shadow distance bugs if you don't do so. Then on the system RAM side of things, I saw that 8 gigs of RAM was enough as long as it's on dual channel. It went over 8 gigabytes of usage sometimes while traversing through different areas. So if you run into that, just restart the game and it will be fine. On the CPU side though, it's a different thing. A quad-core CPU is enough to maintain 60 frames per second in most cases, but there are tons of stutters when going to new areas. You'll see that in the video. When I'm traversing the environment, there will be some spikes in the frame time, which will be even worse the first time you go into a new area. This is not exclusive to quad-core CPUs, but is way more noticeable than if you have, for example, a 6-core i5 or Ryzen 5. Those stutters still happen, but they are not as noticeable, so it seems to be the game just loading something very quickly. So yeah, if possible, try to go for more than 4 cores, but if you don't have a choice, it's not an unplayable game either. And for the testing, I waited to be in an area with a lot of foliage, so that's what I'm showing you in this video. A lot of foliage at the start, then we go to a more artificial place that improves the frame rate significantly, and at the end of the footage there's a lot more vegetation, enemies and effects showing up to really stress the GPU and CPU. And one thing I forgot to mention, the dynamic resolution option is pretty good, at least in my opinion. Just put a maximum frame rate, that is the frame rate that you want to target, then enable dynamic resolution and the game will dynamically adjust it. Of course, this will mean a lower resolution, but I found the frame rate to be significantly more stable. I recommend avoiding the 30 FPS cap, it doesn't seem completely well done. It sometimes drops into the upper 20s instead of staying at 30 with dynamic resolution, so selecting 45, at least in my case, fixed the problem. But anyway guys, that's about it. I hope you keep enjoying the video, thanks for watching and see you next time.
Come die for your cause! I think I saw something. Look, down there. Yes. Right. It's almost down. Dodging a little fast. Activating. There he goes. Copy that. You killed the... Break's over. After him.
Going down, Jedi.
Step back, I've got this. Someone else take him down! I bet he runs away from us. Take this! I'm going to stop you now.
One down.
Smash him!
Quick, help!
Can't defeat the Emperor.
Enemy contact!
He's dodging.
Shoot him! How's he doing that?
Stim, here!
Dodging again? You! Identify yourself! He's there! Right there! Taking the shot! Don't let up! Hey! An intruder! He's on the run!
Attack him quickly.
We got this! Destroy him! Smash him! Don't let him run! I got him! I can't keep track of him! Damage! should go take a look. On the target. He's dodging. You and him. You aren't leaving here alive. Block him. Just need one clean hit. Killing everyone. Guess it's quitting time for this guy.
You won't stop us.
Just me? Take this! Welcome, challenge. Stand up to me, Jedi. I think I saw something.
Target down. Repeat, target down.
What do you think that was? Take him down! Keep away from him! On target!
Need a stem.
Be faster! Can't lose, can we? Just flip up. Break's over! Yes, all right, got it. Hit him already! This Jedi's dangerous! Strike him quickly! Taking aim! Open fire! Enemy here! Catch him still! Let's take him on! Don't let up! Die, Jedi scum! The Empire will destroy you. You're mine.
Converge on the target. Surrender now.
Little help. Stim here. Thank you.
Can you see that? Come on, let's get him. Okay. We're gonna make you pay. This one's mine.
I need help.
We'll make you pay.